Before I begin, I want to take a moment to thank and recognize Most Reverend Bishop Ryan P. Jimenez. For almost 2 decades, he and I have grown here at Mount Carmel School. And Bishop, I really mean this. It means so much that you always make time to be here. And you've always been there for Mount Carmel School, and you've always been there for us. And I really appreciate that. So let's give Bishop a big round of applause. I also want to take a moment to thank and recognize our chairman, Vicente Babalta. Chairman, as a fellow alumni, it is an honor to serve alongside you. And on behalf of the entire faculty and staff and administration of Mount Carmel School, I want to thank you and the rest of the board for over the past 5 years raising teacher salaries at 45%, but not raising tuition. Let's give them a big round of applause. There are too many to name, but I want to thank and recognize all the faculty, staff, and administrators at Mount Carmel School. We're still trying to raise your salaries, but we don't pay you enough, and yet you come in, day out, working hard for these students. Let's give our faculty, staff, and administrators a big round of applause. You know, one of the things I love seeing at these graduation ceremonies are alumni nights. Because tonight we honor a great legacy that is over 65 years old. So at this time, I'd like to ask all Mount Carmel School alumni, not you guys, all Mount Carmel School alumni, please stand and be recognized for the legacy that is Mount Carmel School. Alumni, please stand, alumni. Thank you very much for coming back to our alma mater. In a very special way, I want to thank our parents, guardians, and families. You know, for those of you that got loyalty awards, if you do the math, it adds up to about $50,000, or maybe 2 new cars over the course of 12 years. So thank you, parents, families. Let's give them a big round of applause. And that's it. I'm done. Good night. We'll see you next. Just kidding. So, dear graduates, fellow alumni, you know, every year I prepare for these closing remarks from the beginning of the year. And I had an entire speech laid out, ready for today. This morning I woke up though, went for my run, did my prayer, did my meditation, and I realized that my speech wasn't good enough for the best graduating class of Mount Carmel School of 2019, or so you think. So, I wrote an entirely new one because you deserved a better one. Many people know that my wife prefers that I not cry at graduations. Sometimes I can't help myself, especially with you guys. And why is that? Is it because your senior prank caused so much headache and heartache for your school, your teachers, and yourselves? Well, yeah, that's one reason. Perhaps it's because it hurts me to know that you feel some of your teachers have neglected you or hurt you or left you feeling kicked out of your home. It hurts me even more to know that at times I have failed you as your president, as your teacher, and as your coach. So that's another reason it's hard not to cry tonight. But perhaps the most important reason is that we are in the endgame. And each year, I make space in my heart for yet another group of seniors that will eventually leave. And when they leave, that space remains an empty, sad hole in my heart. It's the fate of Winnie the Pooh, who must remain in the 100-acre wood as Christopher Robin grows up and leaves such childish things behind. Or as Master Yoda teaches Luke Skywalker, we are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters. And tonight, as your Jedi Master, rather than teaching you one last lesson, I want to help you understand how you remind me of old lessons that I have taught over the years. In particular, you remind me of 3 lessons about leadership, monsters, and redemption. As a class, you have reminded me what Jesus taught us about humble servant leadership when he washed the feet of the disciples. Factor, where are you at? Factor. When you slow down the pace of a game, and instead of hogging up all the points, you take your time to get your team in place and execute the plays that coach taught you, that's servant leadership. My adopted daughters of student council, when you worked hard to give every student at your school another reason to come to school, and when you did everything you can to make this school year the best year ever, that's servant leadership. Or Louisa, when you assembled this crazy bunch of knights who are almost impossible to control and organized the best senior trip, or pulled your class together to fix and reconcile things after the senior prank, that's servant leadership. And Quincy, and Angelo, and Kyle, you have been my most faithful and true leaders, always there willing to serve, always ready to lead. That's servant leadership. In all that you have done as a class, you have reminded me about that important lesson, that leadership is rooted in the service of others. But you have also reminded me about another important lesson, one about monsters. You all know that I love Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I teach it every year. I've produced my own adaptation. I even named my youngest daughter Mary Shelley. And for those of you in my English class, you know that one of the most important lessons from that novel is that people may be born kind and good and gentle, but if they are misunderstood, neglected, or abused, they can become monsters. Quite a few of you have reminded me about this important lesson. Earl, you may feel that no one takes you seriously or that you have nothing important to say. But when you speak, people listen, including me. You are not a monster. In some ways, you are a prophet, a voice for those too afraid to speak. Gary, perhaps because others have treated you like a monster, you've embraced that role. But I don't see a monster. I see a heart that is like a gem, a precious stone, but it's buried beneath layers of disappointment, rejection, and depression. You need to dig through all of that and recover the treasure that lies within. And Justin, my fellow creature, you and I share so many things in common. Our love of Star Wars, our passion for filmmaking, and our similar origin stories. In our stories, we have been abandoned, we have been forgotten, and we have been left with questions that have no answers. Despite all of that, we have not become monsters. Instead, we make a difference, not excuses. It has been an honor to guide you, my young Padawan, in your training, and as I wrote in your recommendation letter, the Force is strong with you because you are a force to be reckoned with. And like your classmates, you have not given in to the dark side. In doing so, you have reminded me that monstrosity is a choice. And instead of choosing to become monsters, you have all chosen to become knights, and now Alumni Knights. And in becoming that, you have reminded me about one last important lesson. It's about redemption. Our faith teaches us that we are all sinners who find redemption in our Lord Jesus Christ. And I cannot emphasize enough how important that redemption is. Because no matter how bad things get, or how far we fall, or how many times Thanos snaps his fingers, we can always be redeemed. You demonstrated that redemption after Super Typhoon Yutu. Even though many of you, like Reika, had almost nothing left at home, you still found it in your hearts to come to your school and rebuild it, brick by brick, book by book. You were Knight Strong, and you helped redeem the buildings and the spirit of our alma mater. You also demonstrated redemption after we lost mock trial. From the ashes of that defeat, the mock trial squad rose and came together to avenge the fallen, bringing the AG Cup and redemption back to our school. And last but not least, you demonstrated redemption in the wake of your senior prank. Yes, you had to do those things so you can graduate, but you all did everything you could to make things better. And Jan, you were a fine example of this. You found the courage to own up to what you did, to speak honestly about how you felt, and to appeal sincerely for forgiveness. In that moment, Jan, you and your classmates demonstrated the kind of redemption that we all need, one that is deeply rooted in a hunger for healing and reconciliation. In all of this, alumni of the class of 2019, you have reminded us that in order to lead, we must serve. In order to save monsters, we must love them. And in order to find redemption, we must all be inspired to be better versions of ourselves. That is why you are awesome. And that is why we will miss you. That is why I will miss you. And what more can I say than that? Except for this. Stay awesome. Because the world needs servants like you who will lead monsters to find redemption. The world needs heroes like you. The world needs the class of 2019. So to borrow a phrase from Steve Rogers, Alumni Knights, assemble. Thank you, congratulations, and love you 3000.